So today's lesson is a lot like yesterday's. I'm actually going to try and slow it down a bit. I was kind of in a rush to get that one done, and I feel like it might have been too fast. So for each of these problems, there's all kinds of things going on. And so the first thing we want to do is just read it and understand it. So for number one, this is on your homework. Number one, Jamaica is packing for camp. In one suitcase, she packed 6 shirts, 7 pairs of shorts, 4 pairs of pants, and 2 caps. So I'm just going to write that down. We have 6 shirts, 7 shorts, 4 pants, and 2 caps. Later, she decided to take out 3 pairs of shorts. So take out 3 shorts. How many pieces of clothing are in Jamaica's suitcase now? So I'm going to underline that. Remember, we underline our question. How many pieces of clothing are in Jamaica's suitcase now? So let's just make sure we understand what's going on. She gets a suitcase and she fills it with this stuff, right? She has 6 shirts, 7 shorts, 4 pants, 2 caps. But then she says, oh, I don't need this many shorts, so I'm going to take them out, which means we're going to take away. So the first thing we want to do is we want to say, well, we had 7 shorts, but we took away 3 shorts. So now we have 4 shorts. So we're going to go back to the shorts, and I'm going to cross that out, and I'm going to put a 3 there. So that's the first step. These are multi-step problems. So our first step is figuring out what changed and how do we make that change. Then I'm now going to figure out what all does she have in the suitcase. This is my suitcase list. So what does she have all in there? Are we putting them together or are we taking them away? What do we need to do that? And so hopefully what you're looking at is you're saying, well, we're putting them together, so we need to add all these up. So I'm going to take all these numbers here and I'm going to add them up. And I'll let you do that. But you want to show this work. You want to show what you did here. You want to show this adding so you can get full credit for that. And make sure also that you label so it's pieces of clothing when you're done. All right, next problem. Number 2. Fabiola had $5.35 and Jay had $6.94. So I'm just going to write that down. All right, Miss Fabiola had $5.35 and Jay had $6.94. Now Fabiola spent $3.75. So we'll write spent $3.75. Jay spent, I can't spell apparently. Jay spent $4.87. Who has more money now? So that's one question. Who has more money now? And then the next question is how much more? So if I want to know who has more money now, that means I have to factor in that they spent money. See, Fabiola had $5.35, but then she spent $3.75. Now if you're spending, are you adding or are you subtracting? What are you doing? So hopefully what you're thinking is we are subtracting. So we have to set this up and do all the math we've been learning. So we have $5.35 minus $3.75. And we figure out how much money now does Fabiola have, right? So we're going to be subtracting. We're going to have to borrow, things like that. Okay, then we go and say, well, what about Jay? Jay had $3.94, but he spent $4.87. So then we got to figure out that. Okay, so then we do that subtraction. Let's just do Fabulas together here. 5 minus 5, I'm going to start in this first column here. 5 minus 5 is 0. I want to take 3 minus 7, but I can't because 3 is smaller than 7, so I'm going to borrow. So I borrow 1 from the 5, now I have 4, and I add 10 to the 3, and I get 13. So 13 minus 7 is 6. My decimal follows down. 4 minus 3 is $1.60. Okay, so that's how much Fabiola has. Okay, then we figure out how much Jay has. So you're going to do that math. And the first question is who has more money? So just looking at these numbers here, you should be able to tell who has more money and say who it is. And then the next question says how much more. And when you do how much more of one thing than the other, you're subtracting because you want to figure out what's that difference between the two. And so you'll have to take these two and subtract depending on which one's bigger and which one's smaller. And that'll answer how much more. All right, so then we have number 3. Mira had a dozen white eggs and a dozen brown eggs. So what does a dozen mean? Let's first talk about vocabulary. A dozen is 12. So we've got 12 white eggs and 12 brown eggs. Okay, she used 5 white and she used 9 brown. to make a dessert. Altogether, how many eggs does she have left? Okay, so we don't care what color they are, right? It just says how many eggs. Altogether means we're probably going to put them together. Altogether, how many eggs does she have left? Well, first off, we can do math mountains here, right? For the white eggs, she had 12. She used 5. So how many are left? Right? And hopefully what you're doing is subtracting. And then for the brown eggs, we had 12. Used 9. How many are left? Okay. Now, for our question, it says, altogether, how many eggs does she have left? Well, we want to take all the white eggs and all the brown eggs and put them together, right? Because we want to know all together, which means adding. So we're going to take these and we're going to add them together to figure out how many we have all together. So for problem 4, we have Miss Luong made 17 copies of her math test. So Luong, 17 copies. Then she made 8 more copies. Okay. She made 6 fewer copies of her test than Mr. Dorn made of his test. So she made less, right? So if we do a comparison here, Mr. Dorn made, we don't know, we'll just write his name, Dorn. And we know that she made 6 fewer. So if we do a 6 fewer, and then this is Mrs. Luong. Okay, so I'm doing a comparison table. I've got 6 here that fills it up. We know it's 6 fewer, so we have to put that 6 in there so that it adds up to Dorn's. Okay. How many copies did Mr. Dorn make? So in order to answer this, I first need to figure out how many copies did Mrs. Luong make. So I go back to the first part of the problem, right? Because I'm answering this, how many copies did Mr. Dorn make? Sorry, I forgot to talk about that. So underline our question, how many did he make? Okay, so we're actually trying to figure out this right here. But before I can do that, I need to figure out what's below. So we're going to figure out how many Luong made. Now, it starts out saying that she made 17. And then she made 8 more. So we put those together to give us how many. Okay, so figure out that number. Whatever that number is, that goes in that box right there. And now that box plus the 6 will tell us the total for Dorn's. So we're using a math mountain. We're using a comparison chart. Of course, these are not the only ways to do them. I just am showing you one of the ways we can set that up. All right, last problem. Sandra and Lana baked 2 kinds of muffins for the school bake sale. So let's start taking notes. So we've got Sandra. She baked, Sandra baked 18 blueberry muffins and 24 raisin muffins. Okay, Lana baked 24 more blueberry muffins and 12 fewer raisin muffins than Sandra baked. Oh boy. So now let's see here. I'm going to redo this. I'm going to say Sandra made 18, right, blueberry muffins. Now it says Lana baked 24 more blueberry muffins. So Lana's bar is going to be longer than Sandra's bar, right? This is Lana's bar. She made more than Sandra did, so her bar is going to be longer, which means this needs to be filled in, and she said she made 24 more. So this is going to be 24, because it should be that you have Sandra's and then the 24 more, right? You have Sandra's and then the 24 more should be Lana's. And then for the raisin muffins, we have Sandra's amount, which is 24. Okay, and then, oh, I made a bad one. I'm going to make that a little bit longer here. So she made 24 raisin muffins, and it says Lana baked 12 fewer than Sandra. So Lana's is going to be shorter. So this is Lana's. And what's left over is going to be 12 because she baked 12 fewer. So 12 will get you to be the same length as Sandra's. Okay, now ultimately we have to answer the question, how many muffins did Lana bake? So if we want to figure out how many muffins she baked total, we're going to have to figure out how many she made blueberry and how many she made in raisin. Okay, now what we've talked about in class is that these two put together gives you Lana's. So right here we're looking at adding. And then we've talked about this is a total and this is a part missing. So we're going to take this away. The subtraction. It should give you what's left of Lana's. Okay, so this is using comparison tables or what do we call them? Comparison charts, bars. I'm not really sure what the exact terminology is for them. But it's a nice way just to kind of show whether something is going to be filling it in to make a total or going to be taking away to figure out what's left over. All right, so that's number 5. Hopefully this helps in setting that up. Also, and if you're looking on the back, numbers 8 and 9, or number 8 anyway, is a comparison question saying, in May they had this many, in June they had this many glasses. How many more did they do in June than in May? Or the word fewer, how many fewer was May than June? And those are the types of comparison questions, and that's what they're looking for. All right, good luck.